Hi, I'm Ollie. Welcome to Possibility Space. Today I'm going to read you Labour's Lobbying Problem. Conservative MP Scott Benton resigned earlier this year. He offered to reporters, who were posing as lobbyists, to leak a policy document before it was published. The Labour Party is now in charge and would never do anything so amateurish. Rather than leaking policy, Labour is letting lobbyists shape it. This way, the lobbyists get what they want, Labour receive donations, and everything is done by the rules. It's a much cleaner solution. I'm glad that the grown-ups are back in charge. The revolving door. The first thing you need to know is that the Labour Party and the lobbyists are not two distinct groups. Lobbyists are Labour politicians and Labour politicians are lobbyists. Here are some examples. At least 104 lobbyists ran in the 2024 general election. Of them, nearly half, 49, were for the Labour Party. In the run-up to the 2024 election, there were 10 private meetings where the chairperson was both a lobbyist and a Labour candidate. These meetings connected business leaders to Labour's shadow ministers. There are no standards for transparency, and there is no regulator for lobbyists who are entering government. Even the CIPR, the lobbying industry's representative body, know this to be dodgy. They say, in our view, any lobbyist, whether standing as a candidate or not, should be required to declare their activities. The present law does not allow them to register, and we believe this has to change. Secondments. Private firms have gifted Labour £1.8 million worth of pro bono work since 2022. This means that even if you're lucky enough not to have a lobbyist as an MP, their advisors and staff may well be paid by private companies. The potential for conflicts of interest here is obvious, but that didn't stop the offices of Keir Starmer, Rachel Reeves, Jonathan Reynolds, Annalise Dodds, Tulip Siddiq, and other high-ranking Labour MPs from taking over 20 privately salaried individuals. Why, you might ask, would a profit-seeking enterprise give away its staff's time for free? What do they get in return? The benevolent businesses in question have refused to answer this question on multiple occasions. Tulip Siddiq's behaviour in the run-up to the election offers us a clue, though. She promoted 4 manifesto documents, but only one of these was her party's manifesto. The other 3 were the manifestos of lobbying organisations representing financial services companies. Siddiq is now the Economic Secretary to the Treasury and City Minister. Appointments. Lobbyists aren't just becoming Labour MPs and staffing those MPs' offices, they're also taking on key governmental roles. In July, Varun Chandra took on a government business and investment advisor role. Before this, he served as the chairman of Hakluyt, a lobbying firm founded by former MI6 spooks. Hakluyt hosted and funded Labour politicians' travel before Chandra's appointment. Labour have been keen to make integrity a dividing line between them and the scandal-plagued Conservative Party. Chandra attended Boris Johnson's infamous lockdown parties. His appointment risks blurring that line. What makes Chandra worth all of this reputational damage? A briefing note about Chandra's former employer, prepared by civil servants and obtained by Open Democracy, offer us some clues. It says, operatives used by Hakluyt include embassy staff, former spies, reporters, and well-connected government and corporate people. A significant number of their employees are alleged to be recruited from the ranks of former agents of the British intelligence services. Impact. In 2023, the Labour Party received £21.5 million of donations. Of this, £5.9 million came from the trade union movement, and £14.5 million came from companies and individuals. Let's examine how Labour's policy is shifting in favour of these companies and individuals. The financial sector. Weeks after it donated £150,000, the Bloomberg Group met with Labour, who offered them an exclusive deep dive into its financial services policy, which they published the following month. Also present were NatWest, who seconded a member of staff to Jonathan Reynolds' office. A lobbying firm facilitated this event. Simon Yuval, the head of policy at Positive Money, described the policy document that emerged from the meeting as a plan for financial services that reads like a love letter to big finance, with much in there that could have been written by the industry itself. Tech companies have also been heavily lobbying Labour. Hakluyt spent thousands to chauffeur Labour MP Peter Kyle around Silicon Valley. There, he met with Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, Google, Apple, Oracle, and OpenAI. Labour figures took over £10,000 in gifts from Google. And Varun Chandra, the government's business advisor, holds investments in AI while chairing top-level government meetings about AI policy. This is a clear conflict of interests. Labour, perhaps unsurprisingly, are now promoting these firms. They are ditching plans to raise their taxes. They are pursuing a law that lets these firms feed other people's copyrighted work into their AI models. Carbon capture. The Carbon Capture and Storage Association, CCSA, is a lobbying group funded by oil giants like BP. They promote carbon capture. It's an expensive, inefficient, and unproven technology. The largest greenhouse gas emitters back it as an excuse to keep emitting. The CCSA's connections to the Labour Party are extensive. Their chairwoman, Baroness Liddell, is a former Labour Secretary of State. Their lobbyist, Joe Butler-Trewin, has had various Labour Party roles. These include being an organiser for Keir Starmer's leadership campaign. They were prominent at Labour conferences in the Starmer era, privately meeting with shadow ministers. And CCSA member Baringa spent £34,000 to provide a member of staff to the office of Darren Jones, who is now Chief Secretary to the Treasury. Starmer used to see inadequate tinkering around the edges of the climate issue for what it is, a delaying tactic. In 2021, he said, "The biggest threat we now face is not climate denial, but climate delay." He has since changed his tune, pledging nearly $22 billion for carbon capture projects backed by the CCSA. Carbon capture is a key pillar of BP's foot-dragging and not or campaign. Conclusion. I could go on. Why is Labour trumpeting investment from firms fined over £300 million and $2.8 billion for regulatory breaches, as if these firms are not terrible at what they do? Why is Labour not closing the tax and transparency loopholes that they once vowed to fix? Why are Labour MPs accepting all expenses paid propaganda trips to Israel from Trump-supporting billionaires? I think that by now you know the answer to these questions. This party came to power promising a, quote, transparency revolution. It pledged to protect our democracy from the flood of foreign money drowning our politics. It committed to reset our public life with a cleanup that ensures the highest standards of integrity and honesty. They have no intention of keeping their word. Instead, they are now describing themselves as the party of business and, even more brazenly, as the first private sector government. This outcome was predictable. Starmerism contains little ideology. It is a soft target for lobbyists. They believe, if anything, that the state should serve as a de-risking machine. It should create conditions for private investors to profit from our society's essential structures. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed that and found that insightful. In the next episode, which I think we're going to call "You Have No Right to Know the Extent of Westminster's Lobbying Problem," we're going to examine the rules that shelter and enable lobbyists, and we're also going to call for some reforms to curb their unaccountable power. Acknowledgements. This article would not be possible without the work of Ethan Schon, the best Kremlinologist currently working in Westminster. Schon's Substack, The Dark Arts, is a must-read. Also, vital and dangerously under-resourced Open Democracy is more effective than Parliament's actual transparency regime. Thank you for listening. Possibility Space is a reader-supported publication. You can support us by subscribing for free or becoming a paid member on Substack. Thank you for listening. See you next time.